Ooh, spooky! Oh, ho, ho, ho. Okay, we're doing this little like Halloween and Christmas mashup sort of intro here because today we are talking about some spooky ideas. Let's head over to The Athletic, shall we? Because there was an article published from earlier this week going over the New York Rangers and trade targets, Igor Shesterkin's contract, and what we are hearing. This entire thing was written and published by Arthur Staple and Peter Bowe from November 29th, 2024, and it's very self-explanatory in the title as to what its contents contain. However, one of the ideas that is in this article, which is going to be linked in the description, if you want to go ahead and read it yourself, if you have The Athletic, you will have access to that via that description link, but one of these ideas is so out there, and it's so interesting that I wanted to make a video about it here, especially if you're a fan of any of the three teams that are mentioned in the title and thumbnail of this video. Because if you go over to this article on NHLTradeTalk.com by Old Prof, it goes out there and transcribes some of the same comments made by Staple and Bowe in the Athletic piece. Report: the Rangers' Igor Shesterkin could be poached by a rising team. Take a look at this. Igor Shesterkin's contract situation has become a hot topic for the Rangers this season. Progress in negotiations has stalled, and uncertainty about his future looms large. Despite reportedly rejecting an $11 million a year offer before the season, Shesterkin's camp has remained quiet. That leaves the Rangers unsure of his long-term intentions. It also leaves them open to another team coming in and offering a big number on July 1st, potentially scooping away their star goaltender. Peter Bowe and Arthur Staple of The Athletic wrote this week, if Igor Shesterkin has all along been seeking 14% of the cap on his next deal, 14% of $95 million is $13.3 million, Shesterkin could get that much on a 7-year deal from a handful of teams, and you would think some younger clubs, the Hawks, the Flyers, and Canadiens, among others, would be eager to lock in one of the top goalies in the league as they move through rebuilds. Oh boy. Are we gonna open this can of worms? Hell yeah we are. That's exactly why you've tuned into this video. Could we see the Chicago Blackhawks, the Philadelphia Flyers, or the Montreal Canadiens targeting Igor Shesterkin in a $13.3 million AAV sort of deal on the free agent market next year? Igor is 28 years old, 6'1", 190, left-handed catching goaltender, signed on until the end of this season, making $5.6 million a year. Could he get twice that and more on his next contract AAV-wise? If he gets a 7-year deal, that will take him until he's 36 years old, which will go on until 2032 or whatever. And this season, Igor is actually playing a lot worse than we have expected out of him. Igor Shesterkin this year has a .908 save percentage in 18 games played. He's got a .305 goals against, and his record is 8-9-1. This is, if he continues down this pace, the first time in 4 years that Shesterkin will have a negative record. He's been part of this elite Rangers team the past few seasons that has just consistently found ways to win and find themselves in the playoffs and go on these deep runs and be feared with their Zibanejad 5-goal games and Chris Kreider 50-goal seasons and Artemi Panarin 100-point seasons. That was the situation with this New York Rangers team. You had all this great stuff going on. You had a Norris winner at Adam Fox. You had the best goalie in the world and a Vezina caliber guy in Igor Shesterkin, and now he's at a .908 save percentage. That's not great. In fact, the best goalie in New York has been Jonathan Quick, who doesn't really get too many starts because, of course, when you're playing backup to Shesty, you're not really going to get much playing time. But Johnny Quick has a .936 save percentage and a .203 goals against average in 7 games played. Those are like Igor numbers from a few years ago. Like, Jonathan Quick, in a really small sample, has been dominating in the NHL this season. But, of course, that's neither here nor there. We're not talking about Jonathan Quick. Rumours, now, are we? The thing is, if Igor Shesterkin were to continue down this path, it becomes hard to justify giving a .908 save percentage goalie a $13 million AAV contract in free agency. But if there's anybody that kind of deserves it, I would think it's Igor. Right? I mean, goaltenders, elite, franchise, generational goaltenders, they don't grow on trees. And I think, for the most part, people would maybe not unanimously, but generally agree that Igor Shesterkin is the best goaltender in the National Hockey League. He's just going through a pretty rough time right now with the Rangers who, look, let's be honest, they all are going through a rough time right now. Igor Shesterkin? Yeah, definitely a part of that. If he's playing on some sort of a better team, with maybe a little bit more mojo, even though the Rangers had that really hot start, they've been starting to lose games and they're looking not really all like a shade of themselves. If Igor Shesterkin is given any sort of a competent hockey team in front of him, he probably produces more than what he's doing right now. The question is it Chicago, Montreal, or Philadelphia that gives him that chance? Let's say this first and foremost about Chicago. I feel like that's maybe the best fit for the National Hockey League as a whole, because long term, you can say, oh yeah, having the best goalie in the NHL and Igor Shesterkin, and then having one of the best players in Connor Bedard, that would be a pretty great story, all in all. Not to mention Levshunov coming in on defense over a few years from now, etc., etc. There's a lot to go on with the Chicago Blackhawks if you're trying to see yourselves a better team in the next few years. Do they have the cap space to commit 13-point-something million to a guy like Igor on the free agent market? Maybe. Honestly, most probably. There's a lot of star power and a lot of money to be made if you're Chicago going after Igor. But let's talk about the other teams as well. Philadelphia, could they use a goalie? Sure. I mean, Ivan Fedotov hasn't necessarily been the most amazing guy out there. I get that there was a lot of hype for him, and I'm not disputing that. He is 28 years old, so I think it's not really like he's going to get significantly better over the long term. But the Philadelphia Flyers also do have Samuel Ersson, who, for the most part, has been alright this season at 25 years old. Igor Shesterkin would definitely be better, though. It's tough because I feel like Philly needs a big dub. Like, they need to get themselves some sort of a big win, since you think about a lot of the stuff that has happened to this organization recently. Obviously, the goaltending situation with Ivan Fedotov, whether or not he would be able to actually make it into the organization, the Morgan Frost stuff that's been going on, whether or not he gets traded, how Cutter Gauthier wanted out, how Ryan Ellis's career got cut short. This Philly team has exhibited so many L's as of late. Heck, even the Nolan Patrick thing. That was a few years ago, but still, he didn't really amount to anything, and that was certainly a disappointment. Obviously not his fault, right? But still, it happened. If Philly can get themselves a big dub, like Igor Shesterkin decides to sign with a division rival in the city of brotherly love, then okay, that's some pretty interesting fodder for a storyline in Philly, isn't it? And then you talk about Montreal. Ultimately, I'd say that Jacob Fowler is the guy that most people would say has the best shot of being the Habs' #1 guy long term. You can talk about Connor Hughes in the AHL, but I don't really think he's anybody that we should put any significant stock into long term. But there are other guys that you can say should be in the mix, or we thought they could be in the mix, like the Montembeaus, like the Primos. Primo stinks. Sorry, nothing Zilchnada, he has got nothing going for him. Sammy Montembeaus, I mean, he's got himself a lot of potential, but he's no Igor Shesterkin. So, if the Montreal Canadiens wanted to bring the big fish over to Habs land, is Igor that guy? Honestly, cap compliancy, I think, be damned, this would actually be a cool move. And, of course, getting goaltending that is of the caliber of Igor would be exciting, but it's not necessarily like that's missing time in, time out for the Canadiens. Like, I'm not saying that Sammy Montembeaus is better than Igor, but there are moments throughout the year where Sammy Montembeaus shows off that he does have the potential talent to be a #1 goalie in this league. It's just, he gets hung out to dry by the Canadiens D some nights, and he ends up letting in a whole bunch of goals because of it. It's not really his fault, but then there are some games where it's like, yeah, you could have stopped that, Sammy, I'm sorry. It's inconsistent. Does Igor provide that consistency? Who really knows? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below about one of these three teams, the Blackhawks, the Flyers, or the Canadiens, going after Igor for $13.3 million in the offseason, or some number similar to that. Do you think it's possible? Thoughts in the comment section below. I hope you enjoyed this video. Sign on. And bye.